Well, this story is interesting, Andrea. I'm in currently enjoying a breakfast casserole that I just made for myself. It's got tomatoes, onions, shredded potato, um, egg, cheese, bunch of spices. I put some cayenne pepper, some salt and pepper, some cilantro. Um, so I'm going to enjoy my breakfast casserole while commentating on this particular story because it's quite interesting. Let's go.
Yes, when it comes to my creative arts. By the way, play my game. This is a new show, so we're going to be jumping in.
Oh, and there's ham in it too. There's also ham in it.
Nah, going to jump in. We're going to jump on. We're going to jump everywhere, in fact. Holy shit. We're going to jump.
Okay.
There you go. All right, so what do I want to talk about first? I mean, all of these stories are kind of like,
Yeah.
nothing too big,
No, but it is interesting.
I don't know about any 30-minute segments today, but we'll see. But I want to start my show with some good news, actually. We don't talk about good news on my show too much. I'm a leftist, and we always complain about everything. But let's talk about some good news here. And that is that the United States decided not to shoot down a balloon seen off Hawaii.
All right.
Good news, everybody. The United States decided not to shoot down a balloon. Now, for those of you that are the younger people in my audience, you might not remember that there was this moment in American history where there were just like balloons in the sky, and like Joe Biden was saying China's trying to invade us or some shit, and then like the right wing was saying we got to go to war, World War III with China. Does anyone remember this? I know it was a long time ago, the younger viewers in my audience.
This is called sarcasm, you guys. So we just had like these weird balloon episodes just a couple months ago, right? We don't know why they're doing it because pretty much all of these nations that are suspected, China, North Korea, potentially even Russia, all have much better technology than fucking balloons. So we don't know why they're doing this other than to mess with our psyche, right? But what's interesting here is that Andrea goes on to say that there's no reason to believe that it actually came from a foreign adversary, which means that, what, are corporations doing this bullshit? Like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Might not remember, but they were shooting down balloons left and right, shooting that balloon, shooting that balloon, shooting this balloon, that balloon, that balloon. There's like fucking 38,000 balloons that they shot down. Now it seems that they're pumping the brakes on the whole let's shoot down balloons thing. But let's check this out. U.S. officials decided not. Now, first of all, can we talk about the fact that, like, this is a news story? Right? Like, only in a world where the U.S. shoots down every balloon that's ever existed, like they go to kids' birthday parties with fucking AKs and they shoot them all up, right? The one time the U.S. doesn't do anything, that's a news story. That's a news story. Think about that.
Well, I think the big problem here is that these balloons are interrupting flight patterns, right? Even if they're harmless and they're just collecting science data or whatever the fuck they're doing, they are unannounced. They did not get clearance, and they are interrupting airspace. That's the big problem here.
It's a news story that the United States did not shoot down a balloon. Now, that's the world we're living in.
Right.
So I just want to share that with everybody. A Department of Defense spokesperson said in a statement that the Federal Aviation Administration on the Defense Department first saw the unmanned balloon on April 28th at about 36,000 feet. That's crucial information that they're telling us, that it was at 36,000 36,000, not 35, not 36,500. No. It was at 36,000 feet exactly. Not 36,406 feet. No. Not 35,917 feet. No. Of course not. That would be silly. It was exactly 36,000 motherfucking feet. So isn't that great? The spokesperson said that the U.S. does not know who owns the balloon, but there is nothing to suggest it is being handled by a foreign or adversarial actor. Now, this is why I wanted to talk about this.
Okay.
I saw this quote, and this one is kind of like fucked up. So the balloon is not being handled by a foreign or adversarial actor.
Okay.
So you don't know what the deal is with the balloon, right? If you don't know where it came from, there's a good chance it's foreign, right? Right? Now, it's also possible it's domestic, right? Someone in the United States, someone in Hawaii, maybe, whatever. It's possible it's domestic. But it...
Wait, hang on a second. There's two different definitions here. There's foreign adversary, which means the actual government, Andrea, versus corporations. It could be from a foreign corporation, especially based on the launch zone, because consider, how do you get the materials over to Hawaii to do this? The jet stream flows to the west, and that's how these balloons operate, right? So it has to be coming from the west. If it was a U.S. company, let's say it's a mainland company, they would have to transport the materials for that balloon over like a boat or something to Hawaii to launch it. Whereas if you're in an eastern country, you can launch it from your own country or from the ocean and float it over Hawaii. If you know the calculations of the jet stream and how it's going to flow. And obviously these people who are doing balloon technology are following jet stream patterns to understand where their balloons will flow. They don't have a lot of like controls of that balloon once it's launched. So they have to use math and predictions to actually get it to flow over the right places.
It's way more likely to be foreign. And yet, they're saying it's not, quote, now this is the quote here, foreign or adversarial actor. So the reason why that is the quote is because the way that the U.S. wants you to think about words is foreign equals bad. Foreign equals adversary. But then it also implies that we have an adversary. Now, again, look backwards. Now, again, this was a long, long time ago. I actually don't even remember when it was. So, again, the younger viewers out there might not remember. But when we were shooting down the balloons a while ago, long time ago, Joe Biden said they were Chinese balloons. So, therefore, we gotta shoot them down. The Chi-Coms are invading us with balloons.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, now everyone already knows the United States treats China as an adversary for little to no reason. But this is just, that kind of insidious way that they create associations in the American people's mind. Now, for those of you that don't know, your brain, which, by the way, I don't know much about your brain either, but what we do know about the brain is that it is an associative organ. Right? When you hear certain things, think about sense memory. Right? You walk into this bakery, local mom and pop shop bakery, and you get a whiff of something. You don't know what it is. You just get a whiff of, they're baking something up back there, and it reminds you of when you were like 5 years old and your mother took you to like some fancy cake shop or whatever, and again, that's sense memory because your brain is an associative organ. It associated that smell with the memory of your mother taking you to the cake shop, whatever. This is just an example. I'm sure most people have an example in their life of a sense memory. It's a song. This is a common one. You know, you're driving on the radio, you're driving in a car, I should say. You have the radio on, and, whoa, holy shit, that song comes on, you know, your song. You ever hear these people that go like, oh, that's my song? No, it's not. You didn't fucking write it. That's someone else's song, but whatever.
But don't you think that this is relatively ineffective if you're literally the only person talking about it, Andrea? So if it's not making major news, it's not scaring the public in general, then how is it doing this mental impression that would influence people, right? You're the first person I'm hearing this from, and it apparently happened on Friday, right? Like, it's Tuesday now. So if they decided that it wasn't actually a threat, decided not to approach it, I don't know what their goals are here. Obviously, the only reason they were concerned about it was because it was in the flight patterns, right? You know, here's the thing. I have a dear friend who I watch videos with all the time, and we discuss them. And what we're finding is that a lot of the live stream network, and quite frankly, it was a Hassan video that I was watching at the time with my friend. We're seeing some really immature takes about what's happening in the news and focusing on stuff that really doesn't fucking matter, that is not actually influencing Americans, you know. But then y'all do some really great coverage of things like transgender issues or Black Lives Matter or criminal justice reform or whatnot. But when we get to these sort of like insane little takes about, oh, a balloon was flying over Hawaii and now it's not there, but it's not been shot down. This is such like 50s technology that I don't even understand why they are using it other than to try and get into our heads, right? But in this case, it didn't even get into our heads because I don't know anybody who's even heard about this happening. It's hilarious.
And I remember when this song came out. I was in fucking 9th grade. I was going to high school, bro, and you know, whatever. So we all know what sense memory is, and that basically is just fundamentally your brain is an associative organ. So the way politicians speak to the population, the way that they, again, look at terms like officer-involved shooting, right? A lot of vague words that really, they don't have clear definitions, or at the very least, they're not used in a way where look at the word woke as a really good example, a prime example, if you will, of a word that has no definition, right? And so people will just hear it, and it's not nailed down. It's a vague idea. And then again, because their brain is an associative organ, they'll associate woke with things that they don't like. Even if the word doesn't really apply there, you know, even if it doesn't really make any sense at all, right? So again, when they say foreign or adversarial actor, what they're trying to do here is they're trying to mix together the words foreign and adversarial, is what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it in your mind that foreign is bad, which is not the case, obviously. Now, you can read into this stuff. Well, good news, actually. The spokesperson added the balloon did not fly over sensitive U.S. government sites. Well, isn't that good news? It didn't fly over a sensitive site. I got news for you. If you got sensitive sites that can be seen from the sky, you might not have heard of this. It's a little thing called satellites, motherfucker. Google Earth has got that shit on lockdown. So the idea that a balloon is doing anything that Google Earth can't fucking do is ridiculous. So,
yep.
There you go. You can read more of this if you'd like. There's not really much to look into
there. Who covered that? Hold up.
Good news, everybody. The United States did not shoot down a balloon. Not only is that news, but it's also good news. You might be surprised at both of those things. But there you go. We got fucking, I can't believe this shit, holy fuck, Retro Boomer has remembered the program. Thank you, Retro Boomer. And whenever I think about boomers, I think about medicine. And I think about how I forgot to take my medicine this morning, so just bear with me here.
Okay.
Hold the phone.
I forget my blood pressure meds sometimes.
Alright. So we got a show, doing a program here. Today is Tuesday, if I remember correctly. I mean, it's also May, which is another thing. But that means I will not be here tomorrow, taking Wednesday off. So I'll be back Thursday and Friday, but starting Saturday, I guess I'm taking 8 days off, I guess. But I will be back not this Sunday coming up, but the Sunday after. I'm taking a week off, so just making sure people understand that. I know fucking...
Well, I hope you're going somewhere lovely. I hope that you're going to have a lovely, restful vacation, because everybody deserves that at least once a year, right? And some of us don't have the opportunity to have it. I would really like to go to the mountains myself and just have some peaceful time with nature.
Soul Life. Is Soul Life here, you little fucking prick? Like, Soul Life, literally, like clockwork, since this motherfucker has joined this fucking stream on a regular basis. That's right, calling you out, motherfucker. Like clockwork, this asshole, every Wednesday and every Saturday, like, replies to a random thing on the fucking post feed, saying, like, where's the show? Where's the show? And it's like, dude, motherfucker, you know I'm taking the day off. Come on! Anyway, shout out to Soul Life.
Sorry, I had to pause because my downstairs neighbors are air blowing the leaves and junk that fell into the yard over last week and making a lot of noise. Alright, let's get back to Andrea.
But anyway, doing a show here today. This is the Above It All show. I kind of rearranged my room recently, so I'm trying to, like, you know, my whole setup is a little different. Not all the way different, but a little different, so I gotta make sure, like, this camera thing is not gonna fall the fuck over. Where the hell is that Max dog? Oh, he's on the bed. He's a bed dog. Max, you want to be a couch dog? Want to be a couch dog for the show? He's staring at me. He said no.
You know, the funny thing is, like, even despite the fact that I have a little bit of a phobia over certain dog, like certain sized dogs at this point, because I got bit by a dog, I went to a volunteer, like a fundraiser event last fall, where the host had a dog that apparently was causing some problems for other people at the party too. But that dog came up behind me when I was walking around the pool to go have a cigarette on the other side of the yard and rammed me in the back of my bite leg. Rammed me in the back of my bite leg. He or she, I don't know what the sex was. But the dog had earlier been sniffing my knee and licking me and seemingly very interested. And then when I walked away, he or she came up and rammed me in the back of my leg. Now, I don't own any dogs right now, but I did grow up with dogs. I don't have a problem with dogs. I love dogs. Unless they've been raised to be attack dogs, right? Which is an exceptionally cruel to do to a dog, because you're setting them up for failure where they're going to be euthanized. But I love that Andrea has Max. Max is freaking adorable. Let's go.
Anyway, The United States Surgeon General, the Surgeon General of the United States has said something. So, United States Surgeon General warns of next public health priority, loneliness. Now, first of all, on the headline, I'm already going to give this one a D-.
Right.
Warns. Bad.
What he should be warning about is promiscuousness, because we've just spent the last 3 years in isolation. He should be talking about people making sure that they're using contraceptives while the fucking Republicans are trying to fight against birth control. Because the reality is that 3 years of separation from the rest of society, people are going to want to fuck. Let's be real.
Word choice, okay? Now, I don't know how much of this is on the Surgeon General. We're going to find out. Next, also, horrible word choice, okay? We are not looking toward a future health crisis when it comes to loneliness. We're already in it, motherfucker! Like, I mean, I know. People, like, especially in the government, they're really late on the take when it comes to acknowledging reality. This is the same government that pretends that COVID is not currently happening, right? So they're going to try to shift the focus to something else. Also, again, the White House is considering a ban on TikTok. Congress passed a bill that gives the White House unilateral executive authority to ban any social media website. So when Ron DeSantis, just kidding, haha, because that's never going to happen. When Donald Trump, if Donald Trump wins in the next election, he can ban every social media site if he wants to.
Yeah,
so again, they're going to try to move the needle here. Don't worry about COVID. Don't worry about the pandemic we're currently in. Worry about some future pandemic that, by the way, is also currently happening that we've also been ignoring because we don't care about you. But let's read here. There is an ailment linked to increased heart attacks, depression, diabetes, crime, and premature death in the United States. And it's impacting people no matter where they live or who they are. Loneliness. U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy released an advisory on loneliness and isolation on Tuesday and urged people and public officials to treat the matter with the same urgency as other serious conditions such as obesity or drug abuse as it continues to surge. Now, again, I'm going to be honest, no one treats obesity with urgency. That's never happened. Right. Now, you might be a dumb fucking prick, and you might think that people actually give a fuck about obesity. U.S. government officials, they don't give a shit. The United States in the 1970s basically gave a fuckload of government subsidies to poison producers to mass manufacture poison that made everyone fat. Then the United States in the 1990s told everyone, hey, eat high-carb and low-fat diets. Was anyone around in the 90s? I was born in the 90s, so I wasn't really around for that. But my mom, she was really big on this. Low-fat. I know there's like a fucking Seinfeld episode about this. Low-fat.
Dude, I could be your mom, Andrea. I could literally be your mom. I had my son in 94. Okay? And yes, there was a big shift from the 80s to the 90s. Like, in the 80s, the ideal woman was kind of soft looking. And by the time we got to the 90s, you had to have cut muscles. There was a big difference. Like, there was a huge shift to working out and shaping up and carving your body. As regards to diet shit, I don't remember because I didn't care. I didn't fucking care. I was a single mom. I was doing my thing. I was taking care of my child. And, like, I wasn't out there trying to have the fucking perfect body. I was just happy with being skinny and healthy at the time.
Maybe even better, no fat. Because Americans and the U.S. Government that is bought and paid for by the food industry are so fucking stupid that they don't understand that there's a difference between fat on your body versus fat as a nutrient. They don't get it. They literally, because Americans are so fucking stupid, I need to really
Well, yeah, there are certain forms of fat that you need for brain operation. Like some of the stuff I was taking back in the 90s and the aughts was like fish oil, and I was making sure I was eating a lot of avocado. I still do this to some degree because that's brain food. You gotta have some level of fat, and if you have no body fat, you are at a higher risk for heart attacks, from what I understand, from what I've been told by doctors and shit. You're at a higher risk for a heart attack if you don't have an appropriate level of body fat on your body. And you know what? It's not always going to settle in the way that you want it to settle. It's not always going to be the perfect body. But it's still necessary for you to have a longer life.
underscore this. Americans, not the government. Now, again, the government's bought and paid for. They're fucking stupid too. But I really need to underscore this. Americans are so fucking stupid that they literally actually think low-fat food is healthy. There's plenty of people that still do.
Yeah.
Right? So again, the government has been lying to us about obesity for years. The official government guidelines tell people to consume high-sugar foods. The official government guidelines for the last 50 years have told us to drink juice. What is juice? It's soda without the carbonation. It's as healthy as soda. The only difference is one's carbonated, one's not. Now, some people carbonate their juice. That's a whole different story. But again, I need people to understand that the government does not have your best interest.
Well, hang on a second here. Juice also has vitamins in it. Soda does not. Let's be real. Juice actually has vitamins in it. So if you're drinking orange juice, you're going to get some vitamin C. You're drinking any citrus juice, you're going to get some vitamin C. Does that mean overdose on it? No, it doesn't. But like it is part of a balanced diet if you're drinking juice. It's good for you. It's a good way to get the nutrients out of an orange. I disagree with you here, Andrea. I'm sorry.
Interest in mind. Now, I want the government to have our best interest in mind. I advocate and agitate toward having a future where the government has our best interest in mind, but that is not the current case. So again, why are they talking about loneliness right now? Even though people have been lonely in our atomized society for the last 100 years. Why now?
Because it's
this is the next step of pandemic denial. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with the stages of genocide, because what the pandemic is genocide. We are in...
Hang on, Andrea. Look, you know what? There have been mental consequences from this pandemic. There have been mental consequences. I was literally just talking to my HOA president like a day or two ago, and she's a teacher by trade. Half of the students in her room, their parents are getting divorced right now. There were all kinds of mental consequences from this pandemic. Loneliness for those of us who had to do it alone because we lived alone, right? And so we had to completely isolate alone. And for those who were married and used to have that separation during the day because at least one spouse was going to work, right? And so they had time off from each other. And during the pandemic, they had to spend much more time together, and they got irritated with each other. And now there's a divorce fucking rage going on right now. Yes, there were mental consequences from the pandemic. So discussing the issue that there is a loneliness issue is not out of norm, considering that we all just fucking face this. We're all dealing with the trauma of what we just went through. And isolating the topic does not mean that you're ignoring the greater topic of there still being a pandemic. Although, so it's okay. It's considered a pandemic if it's ravaging the population. But the fact that most of us have been vaccinated at this point and are not going to die from it, it's no longer a pandemic for that reason. The fact that we accepted the science, got the shots, got the boosters, and are more than likely not going to die from this. They've reached the levels that they need in hospitals, where the hospitals are not so overwhelmed that they're setting up tents in the parking lot to treat people. We are out of that predicament. So addressing the mental health consequences of this is not terrible. So I'm not sure where you're going with this topic. Let's see.
The final stage of genocide, where we deny that it ever happened.
Nobody's doing
and we
that.
deny that it currently is happening. That is the final.
Nobody is denying that it happened, except for Republicans with their plandemic bullshit. But looking at the science and the data, we are out of the danger zone. That's what the Biden administration is telling you right now. We no longer have to worry about losing 1 million people, which we did as a result of Trump's administration and his direction. We have come out of the woods, Andrea. So I don't know why you're freaking out about this, but yes, there are some mental health consequences as a result of what we just dealt with for the last 3 years. I'm just confused about your take here.
Stage of genocide. That is what the Nazis were doing in the 1930s and 40s. They were telling people, hey, there's no genocide. What are you talking about? Everyone's fine. Everyone's fine. What is genocide? What do you mean millions of people dead? What? Never happened. Settle down. And
look, the only people who are genociding themselves at this point are the people who refused to actually get the vaccines. The anti-vaxxers. And this is why it's disturbing to me, Andrea, that you're supporting Marianne Williamson, who has been historically an anti-vaxxer. Anybody who's out there supporting Marianne Williamson or Robert F. Kennedy Jr., you guys are out of your goddamn minds, because they are they're a societal problem for us. They're unrealistic candidates, and they're propagating misinformation to the public. So take that into account, that you keep telling everybody you're going to vote for Marianne Williamson, which is a dumbass move. I don't care how much you're anybody but Biden. I would rather you not vote at all than throw a vote to that bitch.
That's the same exact, fundamentally 100%. If it was a Venn diagram, it would be one circle. That is exactly what's happening with this pandemic currently that we're going through.
Right.
Okay. We are entering the denial phase. We are denying that this pandemic actually had a cultural impact. Now, people are like, remember COVID?
That's absolutely the opposite of what this article is purporting. If the article is talking about the mental health consequences of living through a pandemic, then no, it's not denying the pandemic, Andrea. Come on, girlfriend. Like, I love you. I love watching your coverage, but this is a bad take again. Come on.
Remember COVID? Remember when I couldn't go into the Wendy's for 2 weeks? Oh, man, I was goddamn woo! Remember that? Like, that's how most people talk about COVID. Why? Because they're fucking stupid. And so all of this is to move society into the next stage of complete, flat-out denial. The climate's not changing. There's no such thing as disease. Hang out with your friends at super spreader events. Now, again, I'm not saying that loneliness is not an issue. Loneliness is an extreme issue. We are a social species. But the idea that artificially going out and meeting people that are fucking stupid and putting yourself at danger of a disease or death is gonna change anything? I mean, I'm sorry. I say no on that calculation any day of the week. So again, should you work on making...
Look, you know what? No, you don't have to completely isolate, Andrea. But you do need to evaluate where you're going to be. Is it large? Is it aerated? Is it open air, which is the best possible scenario? Do the people at that event, are they mostly like in favor of getting vaccinated? Did they get vaccinated? These are the things that you should consider. Obviously, we're living in like dangerous times, right? But you can't just be like, hey, y'all, you can't live your lives. You know what? You're going to have to give up like a decade of your life to deal with the fact that there's a dangerous disease out there. You know what? You said you're born in the 90s. So you don't remember what it was like in the 80s when we were all dealing with the AIDS pandemic and how scared we were and whether or not we halt our lives over AIDS. We had to figure it out. We had to figure out, like, what is it? How does it transfer? How can we protect ourselves against it so that we don't get sick and die? How do we treat it if you get it? These are things that we have to deal with, and we have to work with the science community in order to come up with solutions. But you can't just like tell your audience, fucking be scared and stay in your house. You have a large audience, Andrea, and you're talking to terrified people who trust you. That's not the way to do it. You can't tell people, be so fucking scared that you never leave the house.
More friends? Hey, I have this issue. But again, it's hard when so many people, minimum bar, by the way, in the United States, 84% of people are just dumb. They're just dumb. Where did I get that number from? 84% of Americans refused a free, safe, effective vaccine for the virus that has killed millions of people. 84% of the country said, whoa, free, effective healthcare that's free. It's free, by the way. Can't have that. I'm scared. So again, 84% is my minimum threshold. Now again, I'm willing to say 90 plus, 95 even percent of Americans, you could just write them off. They're worthless. They're garbage.
Okay, so you can say that, but you don't have any scientific data to back that up. Everybody I know personally has gone through all of the shots and the boosters. Now, that's anecdotal, but I have a feeling that what you're telling me is anecdotal as well. I don't know that that's a real, pull up some links, girlfriend. Pull up some links and show me that 95% of Americans did not get vaccinated and boosted.
Garbage. That's my opinion. I know it's harsh. I'm not trying to be popular. I don't give a fuck.
And by the way, for those of us who have actually held jobs, it's a requirement to get vaccinated and boosted in many situations. And you have to provide the actual signatures and dates and times from your doctor in order to continue your employment. So I don't know where these numbers are coming from, Andrea.
If the zombies are offended by my speech or not, I certainly don't really care. So again,
The zombies? Who are the zombies? Who are the zombies? Is it the people who actually got vaccinated, or is it the people who believed it was a pandemic? Who are the zombies? I don't know what's going on with that chat that I'm apparently in, and it's like off the hook right now, but I'll check that out later.
The idea that, oh, don't worry about COVID, everyone. We gotta get outside and party. is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Now, again, I'm not saying you shouldn't have friends, but this idea that this is now we need to address the crisis of loneliness, not 10 years ago, not 5 years ago, but now, as we're entering the whole pandemic never happened phase of American society and culture.
But isn't that a good thing, Andrea? That our society has evolved to acknowledge that these things need to be addressed? Isn't that a good thing? Like, where are you going with this?
Right? Let's keep going. Quote, right now, millions of people are telling us through their stories and statistics that their tank is running empty when it comes to social connection. So bottom line is that this has to be a public health priority we consider on par with tobacco, with substance use disorders. Now, again, I just want to also be clear, when it comes to drugs, the United States doesn't take drugs seriously either. Now, again, I'm not talking about Americans, because Americans are fucking stupid. Have you seen the way Americans talk about drug addiction? Have you ever been around the people that are straight edge, the normies, the ones that don't do drugs? Like, if you smoke marijuana in some situations, people will literally think you're a homeless person. People will literally treat you as if you have Down syndrome or something, which is a whole different story, the way we treat disabled people. People will alienate you if they think you have a drug problem. Look at how this country treats Hunter Biden, for example. Okay? Now, again, I'm not saying Hunter Biden's a great guy, but, the right in this country has been attacking him for cocaine use, something that right-wingers do a lot, for years, right? Because drug addicts and homeless people and disabled people, in the eyes of the average American, are garbage, refuse, trash. You are all at the bottom rung on this society, which is why I say flip that shit. I flip it. I say the average normal American is at the bottom on my personal way that I view society. Disabled people, right? Drug addicts, homeless people should be at the highest level of priority. But you think the United States government gives a fuck about drug addiction? The same country that outlawed certain drugs and created the DEA, which is a criminal organization, because black people were voting too much? Again, Richard Nixon. When was Richard Nixon elected? Does anyone know? Can anyone remind me?
It was late 60s.
I want to ask a couple questions. Pop quiz for the chat. When was the Voting Rights Act passed in Congress and signed into law? And when did Richard Nixon win an election and become president? Can anyone remember these events in our history?
I think it was 68, but let's find out. Hold up. Okay, so yeah, I was right. He was the 37th president. He was elected in 68, inaugurated in 69. He was impeached in 74, my birth year. My parents saved the LA Times for both my brother and I when we were born, and he was the headline when I was born because of Watergate. That was his re-election campaign, but his first term started in 69 after his 68 run where he actually got elected. So there you go. Okay, let's go back.
Pop quiz. So Richard Nixon literally started the DEA and the War on Drugs, Controlled Substances Act, because black people were voting too much. Now, you might think, oh, come on, conspiracy. Literally, it's in revealed documents, right? You know, government documents they have like some clause or whatever where after a certain amount of time, certain amount of years, stuff gets released, unsealed, whatever. Then people, 30, 40 years later, they talk about their time in politics, right? And it has been verifiably confirmed that the entire impetus behind the war on drugs was because of black people and people that opposed the Vietnam War. Specifically, white hippies and the blacks, as they referred to them. That's why we have the war on drugs, because black people were allowed to vote. If you have a meth addiction, and you go to the hospital, chances are you're going to get turned down. Oh, we don't accept the homeless. Oh, you brought it on yourself. Now, some hospitals, if you're really getting fucked up, they'll treat you, right? But I've seen all kinds of stories of people that need help and get denied at the hospital because, oh, you're homeless. How are you going to pay for it? Oh,
That's not why they deny them, Andrea. Basically, if you go to the ER, they are going to determine whether or not you are in a life-threatening situation. If you're not about to die, they're not going to help you. If you are about to die, they will help you. And if you can't afford to pay the bills, the state has to come in and fund the hospital. I feel like you need to do a little more research on this.
blah, 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 this and that, right? Now, again, this happens. But the U.S. government facilitates this. Do you know what's going on with fentanyl in this country? Fentanyl is a completely made-up crisis by the United States government. Now, when I say made up, do I mean that it's happening or that it's not happening? I say it's made up because the government literally created the crisis. People are dying of fentanyl because the government refuses to regulate the drugs that people are consuming. The government refuses to regulate the drugs. This would be like if people started dying from drinking milk.
That's simply not true, Andrea. Literally, I've been getting treated for chronic pain for over a year, and not once have I been prescribed an actual painkiller for my symptoms. I've been prescribed anti-inflammatories, topical rubs, all kinds of bullshit. But I have not been prescribed anything that would actually kill the pain. The closest I got to a prescription for painkillers was like prescription Motrin. And that was for joint pain several months earlier. You know, these things compound. And that's the problem with, like, when you do actually get injured by somebody or their pet, then they're like, well, what sort of pre-existing conditions did you have? Why does that fucking matter? You injured me. You injured me, and whatever I had going on with my body to begin with, that's on you, bitch. Because literally, I did not have the kind of pain that I have today that I had prior to being bitten by a dog. But no, I can't get prescribed any painkillers, and quite frankly, I don't really want to anyway because most of them are addictive.
And then we find out, oh, turns out 10 years ago, the government removed all regulations on milk.
I don't know what.
So now people are dying because of bacterial infections. Now, whose fault would it be? The people drinking the milk or the government? So again, the idea that the government is going to pretend like, oh yeah, we really care about obesity. Oh yeah, we really care about drug abuse. Oh yeah, we do. Give me a fucking break. We really care about loneliness. Sure you do. Sure you do. So you can read this. There's a bunch of stuff here.
Are you gonna
also again, past tense.
Are you going to get to the title of the video? I see on the television screen. What the fuck are you even talking about? Like, we're 40 minutes in and you haven't addressed this yet.
COVID here, check this out. During the COVID-19 pandemic, social isolation was exacerbated by school and workplace closures that were in place to stop the spread of the virus. So again, past tense, it's don't worry about it. Millions of people are dying. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Millions of people are dying from COVID. Hundreds of thousands are dying from fentanyl. Don't worry about it. Just go outside and party. So there you go. The U.S. Surgeon General has spoken, folks.
Okay.
Doing a show today. It is 10:40 at this current moment in time. Can you believe this shit? I personally, I can't. Right, I can't believe this shit. It's 10:40. Like, are you fucking... Jesus.
On the East Coast.
You know when, like, those motherfuckers go, like, 10-4? You ever see that shit? 10-4. What does that mean, 10-4? You know, like, you see that in fucking, like, army movies. You ever watch those fuckers, you know? Like, 10-4? What the fuck? What is 10-4? What is that? I don't know what it is. Anyway, it's 10:40. It's actually 10:41 a.m. in the United States of America.
It's CB radio code. It's, okay, I understand you. That's what 10-4 is, okay?
So let's talk about some fucked up shit.
Alright.
So the United States, you may have heard this. There was a lot of hullabaloo about this a while ago. The debt ceiling. The debt ceiling. Does anyone remember the goddamn debt ceiling? Whoa, the debt ceiling. You ever have dreams where, like, your ceiling is collapsing in on you? Well, that's basically the debt ceiling, the debt ceiling, the debt ceiling. Oh my God, the debt ceiling. U.S. may default on June 1 without debt ceiling hike. Biden, McCarthy to meet. Now, I want to talk again, real quick, before I read this, because I'm going to read this, about dumb fucking Americans in our stupid fucking form of government. In America, we can write, I should say, vote for, pass, and sign into law legislation that spends money above our means. So what is the debt ceiling? We signed, essentially, imagine this. You go to the grocery store, you have $73 in your bank account. You write a check for $100 because, well, you know that your sister is going to, put the money in your bank account tomorrow morning, and you tell the cashier, hey, don't cash this until tomorrow. My sister's going to go and put a deposit in, whatever. And then you find out your sister's Kevin McCarthy. And Kevin McCarthy's like, fuck you, bitch. And the check, instead of for $100, it's the entire U.S. fucking budget. So we are allowed, because this government is fucking ridiculous, to pass laws in the budgets that spend money that we haven't even approved of yet, and then we wait until later to approve the spending again. So we passed the budget, then Republicans came into office, and now they're saying we're going to throw the whole country's economy, as well as the world's economy, into free fall unless you cut woke Social Security and woke health care. So again, when I talk about things that are made up, this is an example of a completely made up crisis. We passed a budget that spent money that wasn't technically allowed to be spent, but we passed it anyway. And now, later, after the money has been allocated, now we're saying, oh, you're not allowed to do it. By the way, June 1st is coming up here. So, U.S. President Joe Biden on Monday summoned the 4 top congressional leaders to the White House next week after the Treasury warned the government could run short of cash to pay its bills by June. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said in a letter, fucking Yellen. I every time I say her name, I feel the need to, like, create a joke, and I couldn't think of one in time. But anyway, Janet Yellen said in a letter to Congress that the agency will be unlikely to meet all U.S. government payment obligations potentially as early as June 1 without an action by Congress. The estimate raised the risk that the United States is headed for an unprecedented default that would shake the global economy, adding new urgency to political calculations in Washington, where Democrats and Republicans were girding for a months-long standoff. My goddamn... My fucking back hurts. Jesus Christ. Biden called Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in Jerusalem Yeah, he's in fucking Jerusalem, by the way. Like, Kevin McCarthy wants to bring Netanyahu back to America for a visit. You know, the modern day Adolf Hitler. Yeah, he wants to bring him over to the United States. By the way, just a real quick one. Israel is the modern incarnation of Nazi Germany. Netanyahu is the modern incarnation of Adolf Hitler. These are Nazis. The government of Israel is bought and owned and paid for by Nazis. The ruling party in Israel are Nazis. And I would even go as far as to say that on a lot of levels, they're worse than Nazis because they've been ongoing and doing a genocide for 75 years. Imagine what Nazi Germany would have had if they had 75 years to get their shit done. I'm just saying. So fuck Israel, fuck Netanyahu, and fuck Kevin McCarthy. But let's keep going. Where he is on a diplomatic trip to invite him to a May 9 White House meeting, the two leaders haven't sat down to discuss the issue since February. Biden extended invitations to House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, and Republican leader Mitch McConnell. McConnell, whose fall in March sidelined him for weeks, said he and Biden had a good conversation today, adding, "I'm sure we'll be in again." House Republicans passed a bill to raise the debt limit last week that includes steep cuts to spending from health care for the poor to air traffic controllers. Has anyone seen Breaking Bad? Yeah. Because what we need to do is have less air traffic controllers. Am I right, people? Vote for McCarthy. The Democratic-controlled Senate and Biden say they will not approve it. Biden has steadfastly said he will not negotiate over the debt ceiling increase, but will discuss a budget cut after a new limit is passed. Congress has often paired debt ceiling increases with other budget and spending measures. A White House official said Biden, who has previously said he wouldn't meet McCarthy at all to discuss the debt limit, would stress that Congress must take action to avoid default without conditions on May 9. Now, here's the question. Who, Kevin McCarthy or Joe Biden? Who has the thicker skin? Who has the stronger vertebrae between the two of them?
Well, okay, so I'm going to have to end it here because I'm approaching an hour on this video and I got to trim it. If you're going to challenge who, I think it's pretty clear that Biden has the thicker skin. Kevin McCarthy had a hard time even getting nominated as speaker. 15 votes? I think it was 15 rounds of votes, yeah? And rumors out there that he's sleeping around. He's having all kinds of affairs, including with Marjorie Taylor Greene. He had to make all kinds of concessions to get that 15th vote. Yeah, I would say that Biden probably has the thicker skin here. I know you're a never Biden person, which is pretty immature. Sometimes you have to look at your options around you and say, what is the best path forward? Is he my ideal candidate? No. But is he the candidate that will help us move forward and away from fascism? Yes. So I'm going to end it there. I'm pretty disappointed with this live stream, especially since you captioned it. Is that Andrea I see on the television screen and literally had nothing so far in your live stream discussing why you captioned it that way. Love you, Andrea. I'm still going to follow you. I'm still going to promote you. But I'm not going to let you off the hook when you're wrong.